God, every single week you do, then every week I think you're not Andy Peters.
Stop it. Know, we're not Andy Peters. Well, I like to be Andy Peters. Hello from rainy Devon to the Juno way. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to, what is this, Emily,
We've got to episode 4. I don't quite know how we've got to episode 4 so quickly. I was saying to Ricky the other day about it. It's come so quick turning it around. So thank you so much to everyone who's watched us so far, everyone who's followed us since the episode 1 straight through to today. Thank you so much for being here, and so much to everyone who's live right now watching us.
Yes. If you are Fleur, good morning, Fleur. Welcome along this morning. Good morning, Matt. Welcome along. If you are joining us today, please do say hello in the comments. Please do feel free to ask questions, because we have this morning a couple of branding behemoths. I had to look up how to spell it. I'm going to be honest, when I typed it a minute ago.
Now, anyone who watched last week was all about culture matters. And one of the key points that came up, and so many people actually contacted us after the episode, was the explosion in their brain when they realized that culture and brand are so different, although they are very similar in that, but culture being the way that we live our work and we live our brand and live our businesses, and brand being that front and center face to what we do.
It's almost like we plan this. Them being in a week apart from each other.
Who knew? But this week we're going to be talking all about brand, all about how, even as a small business yourself, that brand has to be key to what you do, and how you can apply that to your business, even if it seems like something so far removed from what you can actually do as a one-man band.
Yes. Before we introduce them, should we do some hellos from around the world? Let's start with Emmy Lou, who we don't know if you are French or just saying bonjour, but bonjour. We've got Ben Drury, not Jury, apologies, Ben. Ben Drury is literally the culture guy and was with us last week chatting culture.
Good morning, Ben.
So do go and check out episode 3 on our Facebook, YouTube and Periscope, etc. We have Vishali. No, we don't. Now we have Vishali.
Good morning.
We have Al Fawcett who's joining us. And Al Fawcett's actually going to be on episode 6. Stand by. That's in 2 weeks' time. We have Chudan TV. He's waving at us. It is all going off this morning. We have Donna, we have Laurie, we have
Hazy
Herefordshire. And what's Gina? Really looking fun at what everyone else does first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
Yes. Do you want to elaborate on that, Emily?
So every single week, without fail, right, Alan?
Without fail.
The first thing we decided to do, we're going to ask every one of our guests what you do in the morning. And why we're going to be doing that is because we see a lot across the media of amazing gurus in business who talk about their morning routine, how they get up at 4, they do some yoga, they may drink 10 glasses of water, then they do their mantras, all that kind of stuff. But I want to know, is that actually true in real life? What do we do as regular business owners?
We will find out what Amy and Adam, I've told you their names, do. Sorry, Emmy Lou is not in France. She is actually in the UK, I believe Winchester, leg up down. We do know. I just didn't put the name.
Can I just say, as Emmy Lou is on here right now, I've been really enjoying your Instagram reels right now. I love what you're doing right now. If anyone hasn't found her, go and check her out right now. She's doing some amazing burlesque style bits and pieces. So go and
So right, let's crack on because it's nearly 5 past already. So first up today we have got Amy, and after Amy we have got Adam. Now Amy is the absolute amazing branding photographer from The Woman and the Wolf, to the extent that I don't feel the phrase branding photographer does her justice. She is way more than that, and we're going to be chatting to her in just a second. And then obviously we'll have some magic from the fabulous Ricky Locke. We haven't mentioned him yet today. Guys, let's hear in the comments, what would you fancy as a bit of magic from Ricky today?
We're still waiting to be sawn in half.
We're still waiting. We know he's got a big set today. And then after Ricky, we'll have Adam from TouchSkye Designs. Adam is an amazing designer who helps bring his clients' brands alive for them. And he's going to be sharing his insights as well. Let's crack on because we're already waffling too much. Right. Is that my 3:30 start? Yes. Right. Ready? Let's go. Welcome along, Amy.
Hi. How are you guys?
We're really good. Thank you so much for joining us, because I know actually you are, we've known you for long. You are probably one of the most busy photographers we've known on the planet at this moment in time. How are you doing today?
I'm quite tired, so I apologise for the tired look. I think I mentioned to you guys earlier, I've done about 60 photo shoots in the past 6 weeks, and a number of them were last week, so I had mini sessions, and I'm in the middle of a busy week as well this week. So I'm feeling very grateful though, because I know that a lot of other photographers have been struggling this year.
They have, and we all know. Like, we've been in the events industry. We know how absolutely awful it is at the moment for everybody. But we're all trying to do our bit to sort of stay afloat and do our stuff. But you, and what we want to talk about with you today is your branding side of your photography business, because obviously you have the wedding side as well. But the branding side. So the Women in the Wolf. We've had the absolute pleasure of using your service, actually. You have an amazing gift when it comes to taking businesses and really showing off a side of them that they don't even know they have most of the time, don't you? Talk us through, number one, why it is that you've gone down the branding route with your business, and what is you love about doing that in terms of the clients you work with.
So I would say, like, straight off the bat, I'm 100% passionate about people being visible and also having the confidence to be visible. I would say that, like, most of my clients are women. I do work with some men, but I've always had confidence issues myself. Like, a year ago, I probably would have said no to this. I also hadn't had my own photo taken for about 4 years. Until the past couple of years. So I understand that, like, fear that people have around showing up and about being judged and all of these things. And it can be really scary for people. So what I'm passionate about and what I try to put across in my brand is that I want to help build people up, for them to show up and to, make more money, basically, because that's the kind of outcome from having good brand photos. I also try to promote authenticity as much as possible, just because it's too exhausting to try and maintain something that isn't authentic, and you're going to burn out and you will fall on your face, you'll lose your audience. So I'm a big believer in authenticity as well, and I try to push that as much as possible. And also I'm quite passionate about feminism and body positivity. I'm very anti-patriarchy, and I put this all across in my brand. So through that messaging, that's how I wind up working with some incredible people.
And you've had such a plethora. I got it in today. Yes, you've had such a plethora of different types of business that you work with. I think that's the joy of what you do, is that you have worked with some incredible businesses, even over the last couple of months, even in the last few weeks, actually, because you've been doing your mini shoots and you're sort of your more headshot type. But the types of business you're working with, they are all. They're outstanding. They really are. But it's the way that you capture them as well. Because again, there was a picture I saw the other day. It was of a mum and a baby working. I think she was working. I can't remember.
Oh yes, Becky. She's like a birth doula and activist. She's amazing, actually. She's born together on Instagram, and she just asked how I felt about doing some nude photos with her daughter, kind of showing that real motherhood, that kind of rawness of motherhood that she wanted to put across, and I was completely up for it, and I feel so proud that my clients feel comfortable enough around me to want to do that. So obviously I had worked with her before that shoot, but I love that image because it's
stunning.
It's her, and like, I think the engagement that she's had on that photo from posting it herself was like huge.
Yeah.
I got a question, Amy. So Ben's mentioned about authenticity being so true in the comments. Sorry, let me flash that up. And you mentioned authenticity, and that's been a really strong theme of what we've talked about in the past 4 weeks. And it is so important as a business to be authentic. But what I was thinking is those branding photos. How in your head why is it so important that they use your amazing branding photos as part of their engagement with their audience, that their branding, and everything else? What does that do over and above just picking up an iPhone or your phone and just papping yourself or getting your mate, which is nothing wrong with that, as we all know. But talk to us about the branding photography part, please.
So first of all, I 100% support my clients using iPhone photos within their own branding. Like, I can only do so many photos of someone and their business. Like, I'm a photographer, so I have endless content. But I think, I'm fully supportive of people creating their own content. I think in terms of having professional imagery, it just gives you some consistency. It takes you up another level as well. It makes your brand look more professional. Personally, for me, like, when I wanted to reach out to people and to build connections previously, if I've gone on their website and I've gone to their About Me page and there's an iPhone photo there and not a professional photo, that does put me off kind of wanting to work with them, because I feel like you're making professional brand photography is like an investment in yourself and your business. It's your kind of shop window. It's making your shop window look as good as possible. And I think when people have taken the time investment and the financial investment to do that, that just shows that they're kind of a bit more serious. That being said, though, that type of photography, and this is what I try to work away from, doesn't need to be like stale and corporate and, you know, that kind of traditional business type headshot that we've all kind of seen before. What I try to do is give my clients a set of photos that are aesthetically beautiful, but also consistent, that they can, but they're still themselves within those images. So on the shoot, I try to create space for people to be themselves. I think like one of your favorite photos, Emily, that I did of you, that I've seen you use, is when I asked you to like swear at me. And
I live with that. Can I just say that's quite authentic? You know.
Yeah, I know exactly the one. Yeah.
So it's kind of just gentle prompts as opposed to like fixed posing, and also feedback as well. And, you know, throughout the shoot, showing the back of the camera so people can contribute and collaborate with me on what we're doing. And I just think that makes the world of difference, because, you know, you can only do so much on an iPhone. Like you can do selfies, you can obviously do videos, that's great. But, and, you know, you can obviously maybe engage your like other half or a friend to kind of follow you around places and take photos, which is also great. But I think having a stock of consistent and beautiful brand imagery does take your business to the next level.
I mean, we totally agree. We you know, absolutely. And there is that balance, isn't there? Because if you fill up your socials with your kind of professional brand photography, then it starts to lack authenticity. And the flip side is, if you fill up your website, the kind of shop window, with just selfies, then you lose almost that authority, as you say. Absolutely. So it's that balance, you know, that balance between the authenticity and the authority as they work together in a symbiotic relationship. Sorry, that's one of our other words.
He has a yellow.
Sorry, Amy, say that again.
I just said that that's the maths behind it.
But what I love as well is that in terms of your business and the Women in the Wolf, is that you're not just a photographer that takes the photos and then leaves your clients high and dry afterwards. You do a lot of the coaching side as well, to really encourage your clients to get the best out of their photos, to be more visible. And that's the biggest thing. You're not a brand photographer where you are, but you are a visibility photographer. You are basically encouraging your businesses who may be camera shy a little bit to be more visible and to actually utilize. There's no point in having a lovely suite of photographs in your arsenal to use if you're not going to use the damn thing. So you're very good at coaching through your clients a lot of the time to say, well, actually, have you thought about doing this? And, you know, this is something we could interlay into your blog posts and to this. And you're very good at that. You're not just photography, are you?
No, not at all. Like I mean, initially when I started the Women in the Wolf, it was about the photography and personal brand photography. How that has evolved now is like completely different to what I expected to be doing. Just because I found that I always say now, that I was literally talking about this last night with someone, like having your portrait taken is a massive act of self-love. Like it's a huge act of self-love, because so many people view themselves so negatively. And I do have like a rule on my shoots as well, like no negative self-talk. I prep people for that. And I've recently started sending out a book on confidence as well to people who book. Yeah, it's so much more than that, because the biggest reason people don't book a brand shoot is because they are worried about being in front of the camera. And that kind of act of self-love, like we're told that, you know, if you're putting up pictures of yourself, that, you know, you're being vain or self-indulgent, like that's the biggest load of, you know, ever.
Twaddle. Twaddle. I've got my kid head on. It's twaddle.
Twaddle. There we go. And because, you know, you have a great picture. The best photos that get the most engagement on Instagram are the photos you put up of yourselves. And, you know, you should enjoy that. You should put that photo up and you should enjoy having that positive feedback, and you should let that boost your confidence. So you keep doing it. So you keep showing up and you keep putting out your message, and you keep engaging with people, basically. Like my highest engaged photo of 2020 is a nude portrait that I put up of myself with content about body positivity, and I had like something like 100 comments. It just went completely insane. Loads of people were sharing it because it was the type of messaging that people want to see and hear, and it just gives people that confidence. So yeah, the Woman in the Wolf has definitely evolved from brand photography through to, I really hate the word influencer, but having influence.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what we know you well, and I think that's fair to say. Actually, fair to say. Amy, we need to move on to Ricky, but there's a few comments in the room we're going to chuck up. We did that one. So Vishali says, "Hello, Amy. Amy's done some shoots for a couple of my clients. Matt King, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago. Oh man, take my money now." Now, Matt, if you mean Amy, then yeah, get in touch.
Take I'll take money.
Yeah. Ricky. No, can't do that. Sorry, Ricky, who's in the yellow room. Amy's branding looks amazing on it. It really does. Go and have a look. Absolutely, go and have a look. It's really worth it. And Emmy Lou says, hogwash, and I think she's agreeing with you, not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, it's the way, like.
Oh, hogwash. Right, I'm with you. Sorry, I'm with you. I'm okay with vanity. Amy, thank you so much. We're going to pop you back in the yellow room. We're going to bring out Ricky, and Ricky's going to give us some magic and his take on brand, and then we're going to get you back for the group chat at the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye.
Hello. Hey, Ricky. He's so fine. He blows my mind.
Ricky's slide up.
Ricky's slide. Oh, I keep doing this wrong. It's because I get excited. There we go.
Not Paul Daniel.
Not Paul Daniel. For those in the know, I've changed that every week, but there we go. When I remember to put it up.
Good morning, Ricky. How are you, Marv?
Morning, Emily. Morning, Alan. How are you both?
We have been enjoying your socials all day today. You've been very active at home.
Did you notice the crazy bed hair this morning, though, when I was trying to do the room? Yeah, I've actually...
You may have seen my Instagram story just beforehand. This is the only time of the week I ever take a hairbrush and some straighteners to my hair. I don't know why. I don't go to the pub. I don't go to town. I don't see human beings at the most of the time, but Yellow Magic Hour, I go...
It is fair to say I use a hairbrush more in this house than you do, but I'm not a surprise for anyone. Right, Ricky, sorry. Yeah.
Emily. Oh, my actual word. Sorry, Ricky. Out of the other room, please.
No,
out of the other room, please.
Ricky, I'm really
sorry. Go back to Amy.
Amy, we need to bring you back in. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay.
You got reminded. Amy, what do you do in the morning?
So I have like my dream morning and then the reality. So at the minute, because it's so busy, I'm literally rolling out of bed, brushing my teeth, having some breakfast, and getting straight on my computer.
I love you.
There is no glossy kind of mindfulness stuff going on at the minute. I did do a workout this morning for the first time in a really long time, but yeah, my mornings vary. It depends on what I've got going on.
There, you're perfect. Right, out you go. Bye.
See you in a bit, Amy. Thank you. Right, Ricky, sorry.
So I had prompted myself, and I still forget. Anyhow, Ricky, what's your take on brand? So you, obviously, as magician extraordinaire.
Yeah.
I've gone very excited.
You have gone very excited.
Yeah.
What is your take on brand and how you live your own personal brand as Ricky Locke Magician?
Yeah, it's really important. You know, there's a quote, Emily. I know you love my quotes. So my quote is something, again, that I take I'm passionate about into my own business, but again, something that we used to train retailers up. And that's the Jeff Bezos quote, which is your brand is what others say about you when you're not in the room. And that's so important, you know, and I think that you really have to make that brand, you know, work for you. Like Amy was saying, I thought it was a really good point. Now, a lot of people are quite nervous having those photos of yourself. And I think if you look at mine, there's probably some people would say I'm narcissistic, and I'm not. But you often feel a little bit scared to take those photographs. And I've just put it on the comments that you can often be seen as vulnerable by doing that. I feel a bit nervous by doing it. Oh, my God, what are people going to say? And people often see vulnerability as a weakness, but actually it's a strength. You know, vulnerability is absolutely a strength. Stick it out there. And like Amy said, that was her best photo of 2020. So showing that personal brand, I think, is really, really important. But to go back to that quote, you know, your brand is what others say about you when you're not in the room. It's so, so important. Definitely.
I think the confidence thing that we'll get to back to this. The confidence is so important as well, because we've had lots of photos done with Amy. She has taken us by the hand and really got us to a point where we're so happy with our branding photography. But it's by having the professional photos done that allow you to be vulnerable with your non-professional ones. Like we've been joking about, my hair has been a mess for the last 2 weeks. You know, I've had wet hair on camera. I've had my hair like this. It's been awful. I very rarely wear makeup. I'm wearing a dressing gown sometimes, but actually it's got to be to the point of, I don't care what I look like. I just know I need to be on camera and I need to be talking to my audience. And actually, it's the fact that having the camera confidence with Amy, people like Amy, is so important, because you get to a point where you go, actually, I just don't care. I want to be more authentic. I want to show up. And that is the key. Having that as a vehicle to get to being more authentic, for sure.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're not going to please everyone, are you? And a shameless plug in here. I didn't know you were going to say that, Emily, but my next podcast that comes out tomorrow is going to be titled, Not Everybody's Going to Like You. So don't even try to go out there trying to impress everyone, because you're not going to be able to do it. Just do what you feel's right. Like you said, if you don't put makeup on or do anything, it doesn't matter, because it's the value that you're going to be bringing to your audiences that people will want to follow you from. I'm sure when I've watched your videos, Emily, I've not gone, turning this off. She's not even done her hair today.
Cool. Right, Ricky, what have you got for us this week?
Awesome. Yeah. So I thought we could try something really, really fun. And let's talk about branding in a way with magic. So branding is really, really important. And I think if you think about this year with lockdown, I don't know if you know, but there's a global pandemic out at the minute.
No actual way.
No, never heard of it.
So, right. Yeah. But the supermarkets have really kind of progressed and been really successful throughout the whole period of lockdown. I'm going to talk about Tesco's. Now, early on in lockdown, probably about April and May, they were probably one of the first, I'd say, regimental kind of businesses or supermarkets that enforced the one-way system and all that. Now, funny story here, this is absolutely true. I'm a nice guy. I'm a good boy. I don't like getting into trouble. And I actually got told off in Tesco's. Yeah. I went down the one-way system near the fruit aisle and I just skipped over to the veg and I got told off. And it's pretty embarrassing being told off as a 31-year-old by someone in Tesco saying, could you go back the one way, please? But anyway, this gave me a spark and I thought, let's try something. So I've been doing this for a while now and I'd like to do the same thing for you. We're going to have a little bit of fun. Alan, do you like fruit?
Yes, Ricky, I do.
Brilliant. And Alan, do you have a favourite fruit? And if you do, just name that favourite fruit for me.
I'm going to go. I don't believe in favourites, so I have a best seasonal fruit. I like a clementine.
Clementine, perfect, brilliant. Well, look, I'm going to get you to name a fruit for me right now. And if you used to name, if you used to name a random fruit right now, but not your clementine, what fruit would you name?
Well, it's got to be a pineapple, Ricky.
Pineapple. Okay, perfect. And any reason why pineapple?
Well, we love a pineapple in this house. We have a pineapple right here. Not a real one, but we have pineapples everywhere. So.
Brilliant. Well, look, we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to try a little bit of a mind-reading experiment with the both of you. And it's really, really simple. It's really, really easy. Now, I've took all of the hard work out by writing a list of loads of different fruits inside this book. So I'll show you. We have, we've got pears. We've got nectarines. Got grapes, cherries. Can you see that all right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Gooseberries, apricots, lots of different fruit. Now, both of you, you're going to pick one, just for one fruit for the both of you. But I want you to shout stop at the same time. And I'll make this as fair as possible. I will have the book just like this. Now, there's no other mirrors. There's no other cameras. I generally won't be able to see what you will see. I'll flick up the book. When you're both ready, shout stop. Then I'm going to show you both a fruit. All you have to do is just remember that fruit, and that will be the fruit of your choice. But don't say it out loud. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Whenever you're ready, shout stop for me.
Stop.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to show you. Have a look at the fruit. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Got it? Don't say it.
Got it. Locked in.
Okay. And do you know this fruit? Could you recognise this fruit in your head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could. Perfect. So, Alan, Emily, just by looking at you and trying to do some mind reading through online materials here, I'm going to try and work out the fruit that you are thinking of. All right. So just think of the fruit. Now, I can see lots of smiles here from Alan, but I'm going to make a wild guess here, just of the colour first. I'm going to say something like a greenish colour, but like an off-green colour. Does that make any sense at all? No. Okay, look, I tell you what, guys, I'm going to let you and everybody watching for a secret. Let's be honest. If I was a mind reader, I probably wouldn't be sitting in this sweaty dining room downstairs. I probably would have been in Vegas. I probably would have won the lottery, right? Now, Alan, Emily, I genuinely have no idea. What was the fruit that you saw?
A lemon.
A lemon. Great, a lemon. Is a lemon special to you at all? Does it mean anything to you?
Yellow.
It's yellow.
Yellow. That's great. That's great. True. Well, look, I've got you a gift. You've probably seen that this has been here the whole time, and I've got a gift for you that I would like to give to the both of you. Now, do you mind if I share this gift with you and all of the audience watching?
Of course not. We would love that, Ricky. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Well, look, have you got any idea what's inside of this bag?
No.
What? No, we have no idea.
Okay. It would be great if it was a lemon, right?
Yeah.
But look, I'll tell you what, it's one better. Let me show you. It's a fruit cocktail. There we go, just for you. Fruit cocktail. Okay, that's fine. That wasn't the reaction I was expecting. But Alan, Emily, just let me share this with you. It does say fruit in varying proportions, peaches, pears, pineapples, grapes, and juice from concentrate, citric acid. So I guess that's kind of lemon, right?
Definitely. Yeah, you can have that, Ricky. That's lemon.
I'm sorry. I'll tell you what, look, I am a magician, right? And we want to create some magic on the Yellow Magic Hour. So let's try this instead. Now, the reason that I picked this one was because it's a little bit heavier than the other tins on the shelf. Now, if I open this up, there is inside one.
Look at
that. Lemon, just for you.
Well done, Ricky.
Your chosen fruit. Thank you.
Would have been tricky if it was a pineapple.
You could have made it a lemon meringue.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting thing before we finish this, and genuinely, this was a random choice, but yellow, every time I see now yellow, all I think of is the yellow tuxedo. So when we're talking about branding, it's kind of become like an unconscious thing in the back of my mind. If I see yellow, I think of you two. So there's a personal brand from you. Maybe you two should share later on about why it's yellow. So there we go.
That's a really good idea. And actually, that's quite nice. With a lot of our people we socialise with on social media, we often get photographs sent to us. I was in Sainsbury's this week and I saw this new lamp and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So even though branding is not just a colour, we're going to unpick that with Adam in a second. It's not just a colour. We've managed to own a colour.
Yeah, it's quite tricky because we agree that branding's not just a colour, but seemingly yellow is attached to us quite strongly for obvious reasons.
Thank you so much, Ricky.
Thanks, Ricky. We'll see you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye. Right, let's bring in Adam.
Hello,
guys. Hey, Adam, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you both doing?
We're really good. Nice to see that the beard brush came out just before the session.
Yeah, especially for yourselves. I decided to brush the beard this morning. That's not my usual morning routine.
Oh, yeah. Well reminded. Well reminded. Go, Emily.
Adam, what do you do when you first get up in the morning?
Sigh, I think, a long sigh, perhaps, and then I get dressed, get into work mode. I like to try and relax on weekends with music, though. At least spend an hour listening to some sort of music that sort of takes me away from things for a little bit. That's my way of relaxation. I don't really do any meditation like that, so listening to music is something I enjoy quite a bit.
And you've got yourself into a physical office again, I can see.
Only for the last few days. So, yeah, over the last couple of months from the tail end of COVID, I've been sharing an office space again, although I'm moving back to a home office because this place is going. So it's just a brief flash of an office behind me, and it'll be back to...
It looks so different for you guys.
I'm going to get a new backdrop, though, when I do move back to the home office. Maybe it's going to be a yellow one, perhaps.
A yellow or sparkly?
I do like the sparkly. I have been looking at the sparkly. The sparkly is quite cool. I need to get something that's kind of on brand, so I'll have to have a look at the colours because my colours from my brand might be changing somewhat. So that's one thing we can perhaps have a discussion about, perhaps. But yes,
and that leads us perfect segue, that one.
So, Adam, for anyone who doesn't know you, what is it you do? What is your job, and what do you love doing with it?
So I am a creative consultant. So I help businesses, individuals, and organizations with all their creative needs. So essentially, if an individual or a business has a problem that they need solving, I try and solve it through a creative solution. So that could be dealing with their branding, that could be dealing with their marketing, that could be dealing with their digital content. So anything along those lines, I'm able to come in, analyze the situation for them, seeing what their struggles are, seeing what the problem and the issue is, and try to come to a resolution that is not only creative, but is going to be sort of beneficial for them, not only perhaps in saving of time, but in finances and budget and things like that as well. And also delivering something that they perhaps didn't think of. So I try to work with a lot of people in solving their problems creatively, as it were.
That's an incredible start to what you do. That's amazing. Obviously, this week we're talking about brand specifically.
Yes.
And as a creative consultant, I imagine you do a lot of initial brand work with your clients. a lot of the discussions we have, a lot, especially with the Digital Circus members, is that I'm a small business. I don't really have a brand. I just kind of, I don't know, I have a product that I sell at markets, or I do this. I don't have a brand, and I just don't believe that's true. I think every single business out there, in some shape or form, has a brand, whether they know it or not. And it's about unlocking what that brand is and how they deliver that to their audience.
Isn't that very much like last week? Sorry, Adam, like Ben said about culture.
Yeah.
Everyone has a culture. It's not like you do or you don't. It's a weak or a strong culture. And is branding similar to that, would you say?
I would definitely agree with that. Everyone's got a brand. So one of speaking about colors briefly, I often touch on to with individuals, if they're trying to figure out a color for their brand, I always tell them to look in their wardrobe, looking at their home. What works for you? Most people will have more than one color of clothing that they subtly enjoy or they don't realize they enjoy. That's the best place to start for a color, and then we can explore why they like that color. Look in their home. Do they have a certain color toaster or something like that, or the doors painted a certain color for a certain reason? So you're able to identify your sort of culture and your sort of interests and things like that, your passions and who you are within the things that you own, within the things that you wear. So I believe 100%, yeah, everyone has that, 100%.
Yeah, and in the terms of brand is not just a color, which we just briefly touched on Ricky. What is your take on that? Because it's not just a color, and it's not just about having flashy color schemes on your socials, but to an extent, it has to. It's the sort of ties people into what they're doing, surely.
Yes, yeah. So I like to try and say that I'm trying to think. So the brand, in my opinion, is I'm trying to think. I use a slogan, but it slipped off the top of my head now. I've basically come up with an equation. So essentially, brand is their perception divided by your actions. Essentially, that's what I like to put it down to. And brand isn't necessarily a color. It's a combination of many things to give people a feeling. So there's many things. It could be the typeface that you use. It could be the colors that you use, the wordings that you use, the imagery that you use. It could be a number of things all combined to give someone a certain feeling, give someone a certain reaction. I often, when I'm working with clients, especially people that don't have much of a concept of this or a full grasp or understanding of it, I like to describe branding almost like a house, essentially. Now, I'm sure everyone watching could probably think of a house on their road that stands out. They know a house just by looking at it. They can think of it in their mind right now. If you think of that house as a brand that's done something well or something not so well, you can think of it compared to all the other houses on your road. And you're going to make yourself, well, you're going to have that sort of situation where people are wondering, oh, I've got a judgment about that person, or I've got an opinion about that person based on the house, just purely based on the front of their house, how they keep it, what it looks like, and things like that. So brand is very similar. It's all these things coming together to build a construct that's going to give someone a feeling and an opinion about them or that individual or that business, essentially.
I thought it was brilliant.
I love it. I'm just I'm trying that as a concept to even us as Yellow Tuxedo and how.
I think we were so drawn in. That's why we paused. We were like, but yeah, no, absolutely, Adam. You know, absolutely.
Laurie's just put a point up there, and so going on to the colour thing.
Not that one.
No.
That one.
Green, fresh. So Laurie works in the mindful eating. She's all about being fresh, vibrant. I think so. She has a very green colour palette. I mean, yes, it does work for her. It's not about being everything green. It's just about those subtle things that tie into it. It's that feeling exactly as you said it. She's also just asked, could you repeat that awesome equation, please?
So yes, sure. It took me a bit of time to sort of come up with it, essentially. But branding is their perception divided by your actions, essentially. So it's what you're doing and how they perceive you. So it's their perception divided by your actions. So how you present yourself, what you're doing to actually present yourself, the actions that you take, and then the perception that they get from that, essentially. That gives you the result. That's
amazing.
That is amazing.
What I love is what you're saying right now in terms of the physical brand in its its written form compared to Amy with her personal branding. So the two go so nicely hand in hand together.
Yeah.
You are creating that whole presentation of what that brand should be. And what Amy does so well is she unlocks that feeling, that emotion, that kind of everything that you feel about what you're doing and gives it a personal form. What I was quite keen to talk to you especially about today is we've had quite a few businesses that we worked with over the last couple of months who are a non-personal brand. And to an extent, especially with you with TouchSkye, your face isn't always front and center with what you do. But anytime I see anything to do with TouchSkye across the internet, I can always tell what's you. I can always tell that's your post. What would your thoughts be in terms of, for anyone out there who's watching today who is a non-personal brand right now and who thinks I can't have a brand because I don't want to be having a branding photo shoot right now. I don't want, but it's about showing up. What would you say is the best way to approach that as a non-personal brand?
By giving value. So to give a little bit more of an insight into that. So a personal brand is going to be focusing on the individual. Whenever you're a personal brand or whenever you're dealing with just yourself promoting a service or product, you should be always mentioning the customers. You should always be talking about you. I want to help you, your business, your problems, your situations and things like that. You're going to be referring to you as in the person. With essentially a faceless brand or an organization or a big business or a corporate or something like that, they're dealing with the hour. So you're including them, but that individual is so broadly sort of covered essentially. So it's in a big hour, it's the nation, it's the group, it's the town, it's the world. So there's a larger focus essentially. So even with myself, so it's quite strange recently. The whole branding situation has changed a lot, especially in COVID had a really good effect on this, is personal branding. So people got a lot more in touch with who they were and also got on camera a lot more and connected with a lot more people. So one of the things, and you mentioned this correctly, I'm not necessarily showing up so much. When I first started, and I'm in this transitional period now myself, so I can definitely relate to it, is I was an individual, but for so many years, individuals and designers and creatives, they would start out being an organization or a bigger group. We do this, we cover that, we solve these problems. And that was great a few years ago, up until probably this year, where everything's kind of turned on its head. Yeah. And everyone kind of wants that trust and wants that individual to be able to deliver that service. So they're going to be focusing on the individuals more. So this is one thing that's quite key, essentially, is if you are going to be a personal brand, really focus on the individual and narrow it down to one. Just think of one person, one client, and then branch out from there. If you're going to be a larger faceless brand, think of the R. Think of who you are, your ethical standings, your values, what you want to do and change with your products and services, whether it's going to be locally or in the world. We've got that opportunity now. So focus about these things and try to develop a strategy that's going to be inclusive for a broader audience, as it were, if you are a faceless brand. If you're not and you're up there and you're in front of the camera and you're talking to people directly, be you, be yourself. I try to have that balance. I like to be real. I've had some personal issues, which I've discussed on social media, but I don't dwell on it. I do one post perhaps, and that'd be perhaps once every 3 months or something, or once every couple of months, just to give an injection of realism, just to make people stop and think about it. And then they can go back to work and regular programming, as it were, sort of thing, to associate, okay, it's normality, but that's an important issue. I want to find out more about that or something.
But that's also really important, Adam, because there's a couple of thoughts in my head. I've got to try and remember them all. So we talk very much, and we talked about this in sales with Matt and Kirsty a couple of weeks ago, Business Matters. We talked about your socials being like your shop. So if you have a key part of your brand, and we've established the emotional side to it, and Al in the comments has just mentioned emotion, I'll bring that up in a second, then that's part of your brand, who you are, the emotion that you're eliciting from your followers, your audience, your community, etc., etc. So absolutely, that makes sense.
But in terms of, like you said, bringing up the personal side to it, and the personal issues you've had in the past, and Amy is another perfect example of this. It's actually what brings that value to the forefront as well. It's what makes it. So Amy's key thing here is about vulnerability and the fact that, you know, as camera confidence and issues going on, Amy, if you look at any of Amy's posts previously, you know, she uses that previous stuff to her to actually come into the forefront to show understanding, that authenticity again. It's making her her clients comfortable with who she is because they can relate to that. It's so key, and it's about doing that in a way that's not laying it all out in front of me, woe is me all the time, but it's about bringing that bit of realism into what you are, because you are a human being.
But then when we're talking about the non-personal brands, that emotional side can then is perhaps more about fun and happiness and all these other kind of emotions, that because you may not have that backstory that you're going to share on your non-personal brand. If it's all right, Adam, we're going to say thanks. We're going to get everyone in the room, and we will chuck up some messages. So guys, chuck some comments down if you have them. We're going to bring Amy and Ricky back in and continue our conversation about branding. It's done the same as last week. I'm just going to put some, sorry, that's me being me.
Alan's a bit like Ant and Dec. He likes everyone to be on the right side of the screen. And Ricky's always underneath that.
I know. So let's got backing up here, actually. We've got Rob Mangles paying us a compliment. Thanks, Rob.
Hi, Rob.
Rob motivated me and inspired me to do a 6 a.m. sunrise swim in the sea a few weeks back. So he's very good at that, is Rob. Emmy Lou, she loved your lemons, Ricky. She absolutely loved them. Fleur's back. Love the way this all works. Super slick. Thank you, Fleur. Thank you very much.
Try.
Matt, I'm not going to do everyone. I currently am. Adam in the house. Whoop, whoop. We know they have a bit of a social loving. We've done that. Let's bring Al's point up quickly. Sorry, wrong one. Brand is a promise that elicits an emotional response. It is about the perception reality as to whether you are keeping that promise. Love that. And who else have we got in the house? Heath's just joined us. Morning, Emily and Alan. Now, that's really interesting. We connected with Heath on LinkedIn on Friday because we were looking for husband and wife teams for next week. So next week's relationship matters and is about husband and wives. And
how we've not killed each other yet.
So why don't we start with Matt's comment here to start the chat session. Matt would say, I'd love to hear Adam's take on authenticity. What does it take to be authentic as a brand, personal or otherwise? Adam, would that be okay?
Yeah, of course. So I think it's really important to, as I mentioned a moment ago, is to deliver that realism, to deliver that honesty. One of my favorite things over the last couple of years is seeing a lot of big brands and big companies use Twitter effectively, and that is whether they're delivering a sort of a jokey statement or a witty statement or highlighting an issue in a way that's unconventional. That's a really good way of bringing it back to the ground, because whoever's written that is an individual in an office or in a house somewhere working on behalf of a company, but you love the sense of humor, that you love the fact that they've managed to point out something that brings that reality straight back to it, and it's not just this giant mega corporation. It's actually an individual speaking on behalf of people, but bringing it back to a real human issue. And this is something that's absolutely fantastic that bigger brands have been doing, and they should really focus on doing that as well, is periodically bringing in that human factor. Yes, they got to deliver. They got shareholders, and they got a certain amount of money they had to bring in, and they have to grow as a big global corporation or as a big business. But at the same time, bring it back to the human factor. And you would have had this with businesses before in the past. Where they do like a big team photo or something like that, or they do a little Christmas get together or something like that. It's one of those things where as soon as you start to bring it back to the person and bring it back to the individuals, then people are going to be more accepting. And personal brands do this all the time. They interject their personality by swearing, having typos, and acknowledging them. They'll be saying about, oh, here's a load of photos I took perhaps, but here's some ones that weren't used for the final cut or something like that. What I loved about Amy was she was getting people to actually look behind the camera and look at the photos taken and getting them to actually connect with the images and things like that as well, and showing the whole process and things like that. Bringing that human factor in, bringing that personality connection in works wonders. So yeah, that's the best way to be authentic, I think.
Can I say, I don't know, I think I saw this on Facebook and LinkedIn, but the supermarkets just did this very well. Apparently, Aldi put a post out inviting Lidl, Sainsbury's, Tesco, etc. to a Christmas party. Co-op jumps in and goes, thanks for forgetting me. Aldi goes, I'm so sorry, but also Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Orcs, shall I invite Jamie Oliver, who wants to be the X here? And it was hilarious. It's definitely worth finding. And they did it spot on. And I don't know, it was probably some person, sat there, just going, oh, I might do that. Like, boss, can I do this? Yeah, chuck it out, see what happens. And you're so right, that kind of, even if you are a faceless brand, you can still have that kind of realistic, authentic, personal touch. And I think that's so important, isn't it?
So authentic brand is a big thing, and you can't be what you're not. Is there such a thing as a constructed brand in terms of, as a small business, there's something you want to put out there in terms of, surely that's much more difficult in terms of putting something out there that's not what you're already doing. So brand and culture, last week we discussed in terms of the culture is what you're living, how you're running, that can't be constructed because you are living it. Brand, that front and center view of what you're doing with your business, can that be constructed? Should it be constructed, or should it always be coming from that authentic place? Amy, what do you think?
I think you need a strategy, and I think you need to get clear on your messaging. And that might not be something that happens straight away. Like I said, with the Woman in the Wolf, I was like, I'm going to be a personal brand photographer, and I kind of knew I wanted to be authentic with it. but I didn't anticipate how it was going to evolve over time and now what my brand messaging is. But I do always have a strategy in place. It's a very flexible strategy with flexible tactics. And, you know, it can change. So I can bring in my real life lived experiences into it, because obviously I can't predict that within my strategy. But I'm super clear on what my brand is, what my messaging is, and how I'm going to be bringing that to my audience. And that's obviously through the various tactics, social media, a blog, a website, and just making sure that it's consistent across the board as well. Like, I really feel that consistency is key in building trust. And that's when you're showing up, how you're showing up, what your messaging is. Like, you know, I could desperately do with a help from a VA for doing things desperately, but I need to allocate time to find this person, because if they're going to take over my voice, that's going to change my consistency. That could risk a breakdown in trust with my audience, because they always hear from me. So I think, yeah, you do need to construct it, but it needs to be flexible.
I agree. And it's one of the things we've always said from a Yellow Tuxedo perspective, in terms of that outsource work, you have to be, you have to trust them. If they're going to be taking your brand and presenting it to the rest of the world, they have to be completely on the same page as you. And that's why we always say be very, very, very careful. If you're choosing to outsource, say, your social media, nothing wrong with doing that, but make sure that that message from the very start is completely defined. What language will you be using? I mean, both Adam and Amy, you're quite sweary actually, but that's fine for you and your brand. That's how you are.
No swear words.
No swear.
It's half term.
But that's what we didn't even realise when we booked both of you guests and say how similar as brands you are, in terms of how raw you both are, and how you have absolutely, like, through you just don't care in terms of, I'm saying this because this is so important to me. I don't care how this is. I'm going to tell my message through being raw and personable and all of that. That is what makes you both so amazing, so amazing. If anyone's watching right now and hasn't checked out both of these brands, do go and check them out afterwards.
We will do. Where can you find us at the end, won't we?
Yeah.
So,
but let's bring it back to small business who may not think that they have a brand, in terms of how they should approach that. What would be the starting point? Like, if I don't think I've got a brand, right? What is the starting point now of going, actually, I do have a brand, I need to define this? What would you say you should start doing in terms of working out how to begin with that journey?
Exactly.
Anyone? Amy, you're
Okay. I would say to get clear on your messaging, like, is the number one thing. Like, what's the message behind your brand? What's the message behind your business? How do you help people? And once you've got that clear, that's when you can then that's kind of like the foundation for your brand, and then you can start to build around that. And I find if you haven't got that in place, like, even if you're a business that is a faceless business, if you've got your messaging and how you help people or what you do for people on point, you can't really, you're still going to be authentic and able to show up in an authentic way, because you'll build the brand around those things.
100%. And that's where we approach with it. And I'm keen to hear how Ricky started your brand as well. What was your initial thought process when it came to being Ricky Locke Magician, moving away from Ricky Locke working for Argos? That was a big thing. How did you start that journey of creating Ricky Locke Magician?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of trial and error, putting posts out there, just trying stuff. An exercise that I did a long time ago, which you could probably do this as well for anybody listening, is just ask your audience what they think. So an exercise would be where you ask your audience, what 3 words would you use to describe my brand? Now, you might have 3 words in your head that you believe your brand is representing, and then you can then base, if you're on the right path, based on the feedback from the audience. So let's say for my brand, it was, I'll just make something up. Let's go sharp, magical, rustic, right? If people,
a really nice guy.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, great. If people come back, say he's a horrible man, you know, he's dirty, I would know that, oh, maybe I'm portraying the wrong image, if that's what people are thinking, but now I can work towards that. It's a bit of trial and error. Put out, ask your audience what they think. Make sure you target the right audience. Don't go to your mates or your best friends, because they will tell you what you want to hear. You know, you really want to go out there and get that feedback, so then you can then go, right, okay, I'm not actually portraying the brand that I think I'm portraying, so now I need to work towards that. That's an exercise I would say do.
Yes, no, absolutely. Sorry, I was reading a comment. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said. I should have let Emily answer you. I apologise.
Read the comment out.
Right, Ricky. Yes. He's put, and I think this is really interesting, especially during lockdown, small businesses pivoting. And I'm going to read Heath's comment out and then pose my question. We have 2 brands in our business now. We used to have one, but this got complicated, both talking to people and on the website. We've now split this to simplify our message and the different client customers we work with. And actually, I've had this conversation this week. I know, Amy, you have a couple of brands you work under, very similar and close, and obviously, for those who don't know, we do mobile glamping called Bay Lily Bell Tents, and this. What's your spin? Let's start with Adam. Actually, Adam, what's your thoughts on? Yeah, if you've got 2 businesses, you're a small business, you're looking at pivoting. We know a wedding stationer who's becoming a brand or going back to brand designer, not becoming one. And we know loads of examples of this. What's your take on the branding? Does it need to be separate? Could you work it together? Any other thoughts? Thanks, Heath. Great point.
Yeah, really good point, actually. So I actually had this conversation on Friday just gone. So there's a client I'm working with. It's a council, essentially, and it's working across Hampshire County Council. So there's lots of sub-councils within that. And it's working on campaigns. And they're constantly developing and branching out and reaching other counties with this campaign. But they need to sort of personify the campaign itself to that specific county, as it were, give it a slight rename. But the thing is, I need to make sure that people are able to recognize the overarching brand, as it were. So it's one of the things that I was really sort of suggest is think about your colors and think about your imagery. I mean, I was having a discussion with somebody the other day about does a small business need a logo? And my mindset is yes. For many years it was no, but my mindset is yes. Everyone needs that, because not everyone's going to read your message. Not everyone's going to read your post. Not everyone's going to know who you are. It's going to take a while for them to actually get to know you. But when they start recognizing the colors or the style of imagery or that logo, they're going to notice that first. I mean, we're biologically programmed to work to recognize symbols and things like that, and shapes and colors and things like that. So it's far easier for someone who's starting up a business to go with a logo and a color or an image style or something like that that's going to be recognized from a distance or even just flipping through. So that's something that's quite important. Yes, you can have sub brands and sub businesses and have them all connected, but connect them through a common theme. So connect them through the colors or connect them through the sort of the logo and have a variation of that logo, as it were, because the messaging might be different, the intent might be different. So you want to connect it somehow, and probably color and logos were the best way to do that, essentially.
Okay, cool.
Amy, so you have the Woman in the Wolf and you have Amy Robertson Photographer. What I was quite keen to, they are very separate businesses for very different kinds of client, but obviously your product, regardless of the end client, is you. And the same with us with Bailey Bell Tents to an extent, and Yellow Tuxedo. The driving force between both of them, they're 2 very different businesses, but we're very front and center to that. And that personal brand between myself and Alan, and I bring that back to you, Amy, as well, is the fact that people are buying into us, they're trusting us, they are, again, like I said to Ricky, we're jolly nice people. That's one of our phrases we use a lot, we're jolly nice people. How do you, I mean, again, with your 2 very separate businesses, what do you make sure, how do you connect the 2 to make sure that they're both very recognizable as Amy, apart from the fact, obviously, with your very distinct style of photography?
Which is amazing. Can we just reiterate?
Yeah, so obviously my photography is consistent across both brands. So you would generally recognize one of my wedding photos and one of my portrait photos. Like they're not different. I would say that I probably I put quite a lot of myself into both, but I talk about different things. So I still have the same voice. I still have the same approach to authenticity. So my wedding photography is documentary wedding photography. I don't want to work with brides who, want tons of details at their wedding and who want, they're not going to want to go outside and get their dress muddy. Precious people, I don't want them. So I still make sure that my personality is within my documentary wedding photography, because it makes sure that I work with the people that I'm going to connect with the best. And that's really, really important. So while the two are quite different, actually, oddly, a lot of my wedding clients follow the Woman in the Wolf, and the feedback has been that they actually really like the Woman in the Wolf because they feel like there's more of me put into it. So I kind of feel that maybe I do need to be putting more of me into Amy Robertson, because I do hold back a bit from that because it is weddings and I'm not entirely sure where it's relevant. But my clients seem to really like it. So it's just obviously getting feedback, putting things out there, seeing what happens. But having the two, it can be challenging as well, I think, to kind of not be doing the same thing on both, because sometimes, I'm sure you guys get this, sometimes it can be quite easy to, especially like say on Instagram stories, where you're posting more of a behind the scenes, day-to-day life. It's the opportunity for people to get to know you. Doing something different for each one can sometimes just be massively time consuming and very exhausting. So I do conscious of that as well, I think. But yeah, it's just authenticity. I feel it's the key to it all. And yeah, that's why my clients trust me and they want to work with me.
That is good. I'm sitting. Thank you, Amy. I think it's spot on. I'm sitting here. We may have to do a 7th episode called Authenticity Matters. I do honestly. It's been one of the things that's gone through all of the episodes we've done, and touches your culture, your brand, your business. What was the first one? Community and everything. So I'm wondering whether we need to sneak episode 7.
But what Amy,
check your diary, Ricky.
Going back to Ricky, but what you said within your segment earlier, and what your podcast is about to be about, is that not everyone's going to like you, and that's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine, because as Amy's just said very, very clearly, you don't want those particular brides to work with. They're not your cup of tea. You're going to end up hating your job because you're dealing with clients that you just don't want to. It weeds out the chaff. It kind of gets rubbish.
I purposely put unflattering photos on my wedding Instagram and my website, because I don't want anyone, like, unflattering as in unflattering and funny and fun, but you know, if it's a bride laughing with a ton of double chins, that goes on the website, because I don't want anyone to go on my website and go, if they're going to look at that and go, no, that's not me, that's great, like, because I don't want to work with that person. So yeah, 100%, it's fine for people to not like you.
We have a bit of an equation about that. It's not as slick as Adam or Ricky's thoughts and equations or quotes today. It's just something we use. But there's 7 billion people in the world, give or take. 6.67. Someone Google that for us, thanks. And you're only trying to find the X% that you want for your clients. Now, that might be 20, that might be 100, that might be 1,000. That means there's rather a lot who aren't going to be the right client for you. So it is okay if people don't totally buy into what you do and like what you do. We do need to wrap up, but we haven't asked Ricky anything in the chat section.
Oh, Ricky, tell us something, anything. What do you want to talk about?
Hey, say yeah.
What? I've talked to you.
Oh, have you?
Ricky, any closing thoughts in terms of brand? And
yes, let's do a round.
Yeah. I was kind of thrown on the spot there. Yeah. So I think what Amy said there is perfect. Not everyone's going to like you, but every second that you spend thinking about someone else that doesn't like what you're about is a second that you could be spending on yourself or your brand. And you shouldn't just get, hung up with it. I had a great conversation with Chris Mooney, who friends of Yellow Tuxedo. And he shared a really great story about this, where someone didn't like his video. But actually, it's quite good for the algorithm, because if you reply and say, hey, no problem, thanks very much, appreciate your comment, YouTube thinks it's a really good video because they're seeing engagement. But it's not getting sucked into that. Don't spend that time on there. Just forget it, move on. And it says more about them than it does about you, doesn't it? For them, right?
Yeah. He made some amazing content.
He did. He made some amazing content, and that was some of his most popular content he'd made. That from that diss. He'd messaged us actually and said he was quite. He wasn't unhappy.
Have
but
I made it? Have I made it? Yes, you've made it. You've got negative comments.
Right. Let's do. Where can we find you?
Adam, you are too busy driving this conversation. Amy, any closing thoughts on brand as a general thought?
I would say that if you're a small business, like a one-man band, to build a brand that you are totally in love with and that you enjoy showing up for every single day, because that will be what you are doing. And if it's for something you're not passionate about and you're not driven by and you don't love it, then you're not really going to see the success that you want to see with that.
100%. Amy, how can we find you outside of the Yellow Room?
So you can find me on Instagram, and I've got like the worst Instagram name ever. It's The Woman and the Wolf, but there's an underscore after every word, so it's like painstaking to type out. But
it's in the comments and description.
So it's just The Woman and the Wolf with an underscore in between each word. And also thewomanandthewolf.com is my website. And then also I'm The Woman and the Wolf on Facebook as well.
And Adam, any final closing thoughts on brand? Oh, Adam,
we can't hear you.
I think before establishing a brand, I think it's best to establish yourself. Figure out what it is that you want to do. Figure out what it is that you want to achieve and why you want to do it. As soon as you figure out who you are and what you can offer, then you can build a brand off that. That's going to take the storm. It's going to take the world over, essentially. Once you know and you get into that groove, you're going to be sorted, and things are going to be a heck of a lot easier for you. Rather than trying to figure it out as you go along, it's going to be difficult. And believe me, I've done that on many occasions in many aspects of my business as well. So figure out who you are first, and then get going from there. It makes it so much easier.
And how can we find you, Adam?
So Instagram is probably the best way to find me. So I am TouchSkye Designs. You can also type in Adam the Creative Consultant, but it's TouchSkye. So there's an underscore between TouchSkye and Designs, and Sky has an E on the end. So that's TouchSkye Designs.
No. And Ricky, just touching back to you, you had a shameless plug earlier, but give us it again. What's going on tomorrow?
Yeah, so my next episode of Unlock, the Ricky Locke podcast, is about the same kind of situation, which is not everybody's going to like you. So for anybody producing content, some tips and tricks to not get hooked up on those negative Nellies, as we would say. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, it's all out there. And you can follow me at Ricky Locke Magic, Facebook, Instagram, and Ricky Locke on LinkedIn.
Wonderful.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much. Right, guys, we're going to turf you out into the other room again. Thank you so much for joining us today.
See you later.
Thank you so much for everyone who watched today. That has to be one of those exciting, interesting conversations we had up to date. And one of those key things I keep looking at in every single episode, that element of authenticity is so key. And we're really excited to bring that to you next week as well. So next week's episode is all about relationship matters, and it's going to be a special based on husband and wife teams working together. We have got Kelly and James West from the Only Network, and we also have Paul and Lou from Bridge Health and Wellbeing coming to us, and they are talking what?
Nothing, just
and they're going to be talking about how they find it working as a team, as a duo, especially during lockdown, and how they're finding working together. So do stay tuned for next week's episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to everyone who has been talking to us today, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Oh, no, it was going over an hour.